Hello and welcome to the Hair Energy Report TV. This is a webinar which is a slightly longer edition of the Hair Energy Report. The webinar we will be doing every month on the last Tuesday of the month. This is our first one after a hiatus of almost 8 years of doing webinars. So I'm really thrilled to have you on board tonight. Just a couple of housekeeping matters if we could. On the right hand side of your screen you will see there is a live chat. Please feel free to enter any questions that you might have as we go through the evening into the live chat, and we will do our best to answer them for you tonight live. Also, you might be aware that with webinars sometimes there is a slight lag between the speaker's voice and the video. Hopefully it's only a moment or two and it won't be too distracting, but please bear with us if you do have that slight lag, because it can, there's nothing we can do about it unfortunately. It's just the vagaries of the internet, upload speeds and all those technical sort of things. My guest tonight is a very special man in my life. He has been a source of inspiration for me for almost 40 years when I first bumped into him, when he was leading the team at Schwarzkopf as sales and marketing director. He has a fascinating look at business, a different way of approaching business opportunities and business management. He's a man that has always been inspiring. I've seen lots of the presentations from John over the years, and I never cease to go away inspired, ready with something new and different. He, as I said, led Schwarzkopf to market leader here in Australia, and he went on to have a very successful career as a motivator and public speaker. Would you please welcome my guest for this evening, Mr. John Lees, from all the way down in Suntown, California. Hello, John. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Stuart. And I hope everybody enjoys this session. Probably people are thinking, is he going to make it through the session? Thank you very much. Well, I started with Schwarzkopf when I was 28. I'm now 71, which, by the way, is the same as my IQ. So I'm quite proud of that. But no, I'm fine. And we've been living here now just over 2 years and enjoying ourselves. And it's interesting to live in America, believe me. And the reason I made the decision is that I had been working with the Australian company in America for 2 years. And they asked if I would join them here, and well, I thought maybe it would be a very good idea to do that. So we've done it, and I love what I'm doing, and working here with retailers and so forth, and still have lots of contact with people in Australia, people like yourself and so forth. So thank you again, and I have a few goodies to tell everybody about later, but let's get started. Stuart mentioned that I ran the marketing and sales operations for Schwarzkopf, and that happened in Australia and New Zealand. And indeed, we did reach market leadership in those days, not because of our products. The products were good. Everybody's products were good. Our competition were renowned internationally, very good operations. But what we did was, in talking to hairdressers, talking to salon owners, we found out their number one problem was not buying product. They could access product just about anywhere. It was really knowing how best to help their customers without having to resort to sales techniques and all that nonsense. How to get the best out of their staff without suddenly having a change of personality, which is what people go on about with leadership and so forth. So yeah, we started to help salons in areas that they never asked for help, and it wasn't patronizing either, I can assure you. We had what we call a board of customers, very progressive salon owners around Australia, and we had a board in Australia and a board in New Zealand. And so I met with these people 3 times each year, so that was 6 meetings a year for us, and this lasted nearly 10 years. So it gave us tremendous insights into the real needs of our customers, their language versus our language, what they liked about dealing with suppliers, and so forth and so on. So at a future point, because I know that Stuart would like to run a series of these sessions. So the first session that we're going to run is an overview of business, a simple but hopefully a truthful overview of business. When I first got started in business, I can't tell you how much nonsense I had to put up with about selling and sales techniques and all that kind of stuff. So I promise I won't bore you with that. And it's, it's funny, Stuart mentioned that I was in Australia a speaker. I spoke at more than 2,000 conferences, many different industries, which was very enjoyable. And I would start by, the people that would introduce me would say that John Lees has worked for Schwarzkopf and what have you. And then I would start and say, thank you for the invitation and thank you for the warm round of applause. It was mentioned that I was with Schwarzkopf. Have you heard of Schwarzkopf? And everybody nodded their head. And I said, well, if you have, you will know that it's a hair care company. And knowing that and seeing me, I do feel I owe you an explanation. People would laugh. And I say, well, there's no point denying it. I could sense what you were thinking. How is it possible for him to have worked for a hair care company? Thank you very much. Well, for your information, I had to test opposition products. That's what happened in my case. And and when you have this condition, people say very strange things to you. Do you realize you're losing your hair? Which suggests perhaps that if I had been more responsible, I might have kept it. They also say things like, when did you first notice you were losing your hair, John? Well, it was taking me longer to wash my face. And then I used to say, and I hope you don't tell anyone this, but I've just started using L'Oreal. Why? Because I'm worth it, that's why. And anyway, I had a ball in the hairdressing industry. I love working with salon owners, love working with stylists, and love being of help to them in ways beyond the obvious. So let's get started. Let's have a look at business. You're going to be in business all of your life. So will I. I'm not suggesting that you won't retire at some stage. That's up to you. But, your business is there to help people and their business is there to help you. And, if not for yourself, then for your children, we should leave them a good attitude about business. So some people have lousy attitudes about business. I spoke to one guy here in America and I said to him, what business are you in? And he told me, I said, why are you in that particular business? He said, I'm in this business to make money. I said, oh, okay, to achieve what? He said, to get out of business. Right. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. If people don't want to be in business, I can't figure it out. Because you have a lot of people in business who don't look too happy. They say things like, I love my work. I say, really? Why don't you tell your face about it? So there is a definition of the word winning, which is known to all athletes, but not to many business people. The definition of the word winning is progress through struggle. Business is not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be an ongoing challenge. But I would add an additional word to this, progress through enjoyable struggle. Because if you don't enjoy what you do, if you endure what you do rather than enjoy it, you're paying a hell of a price. So we should enjoy ourselves, and I'm now going to show you the world of business as I see it. It's a truthful view of business. There's nothing sensational about it. So let's have a look at people in business and businesses themselves. So first of all, we have a pyramid of people, and you are in there somewhere and I am in there somewhere. And then you get to see all of the results generated by these people. And when I say results, by the way, I know that in most instances people think I'm talking about money, and obviously that is one of the key results, but it's not the main result. The first result is that you sell success. That's number one. You cannot earn success if you do not sell success. So your success comes from the success that you create for people. And you're sitting on a gold mine as far as I'm concerned. So the first result is that you sell success. Another result is that you have successful staff. Very difficult for unsuccessful people to sell the concept of success to your customers. And don't forget, they are your customers. So you should be thinking about how should they be treated, no matter who happens to be the person looking after them. And of course, then you are looking at reputation for the salon and revenue and so forth and so on. So we look at the two pyramids together, and then we see that very few people, very few businesses generate most of the results. I'm sure that's not a big surprise. I'm not talking about big business up here, by the way. I'm just talking about progressive businesses. So up here you have very small, medium and large businesses. You have some one-man bands and so forth and so on. Here the people at the top are a very interesting breed. First and foremost, they're not a protected species. In other words, wherever they operate, the external conditions are the same for them as they are for everybody else. So you have, for instance, government policy, banking policy, consumer confidence, the weather, competitiveness, you name it, it's there. So these people are not dependent on what goes on outside the salon. They have decided that they will become masters of what I call the second economy. So the first economy is outside the salon, and sometimes it will be kind to you and sometimes it will be unkind to you. So know all about it, pull your horns in if you have to, make hay while the sun shines if you can, but concentrate on the second economy, which is the inside of the salon. So let me explain what I mean by the second economy. The second economy concerns about 5 or 6 points. Number one, is it possible for most salons, including yours, to be able to deal with more new customers? I hope your answer is yes. If by the way, you say, no, we can't take any more, well then congratulations, that's fantastic. But for most people, for most salons, for most businesses, they certainly can deal with more new quality customers. So that's number one opportunity within the context of the second economy. The next factor is it possible for you to do more for the customers that you currently have on your database, on your list, and so forth and so on, people that you are accustomed to seeing every 4 to 6 weeks whenever you need to see them. Is it possible for you to do more for these customers? I hope the answer again is yes. Number three, is it possible that your staff could become more creative and productive than they are now? Again, I hope the answer is yes. Is it possible that you could become a better manager and a better leader? Don't forget, management can be spread throughout the team, so you shouldn't be carrying the load at all times. Leadership comes when you begin to accept responsibility beyond simply management. Yes, so could you be better at what you're doing? I hope that's the case. And next is, could you have better connections in your life? I certainly, when I was a young man working for Schwarzkopf, during some dark days when I really didn't know quite what to do, I read the books of a man who's now since passed, but his name was Peter Drucker. Fabulous books. Now, I've written 12 books. He wrote, I think, I'm not sure, 24 or 25 books. So he was a tremendous help to me. He never met me, but he was very helpful to me. And by the way, I'll let you know you have access to some of my books at no charge later on, so hopefully that will be of interest to you. So the second economy is the inside of the salon, and it's under your control. And anytime you want my help, you've already got Stuart's help, but anytime you want my help, doesn't matter that I'm in America, I will give you my email address. In fact, I'll do it right now so I don't forget. My email address is info at johnlees, johnlees.com.au. So you can...
I'll put that email address in the notes in the webinar so that everybody can get that, John. That's terrific. That's wonderful.
Thank you, Stuart. So you can contact me anytime if you've got questions, ideas, you know, if you'd like the books and so forth and so on, in a PDF version, happy to send them to you. Yes, so the second economy is very important to understand. You'll never get it right, but you are, as I said, sitting on a gold mine with the second economy. So then, as we look at these people here, some are young, some are old, some are female, some are male, fat, thin, tall, small. Some of these people are very outgoing, very assertive types. But most of the people I meet up here are really quiet people. I don't mean meek and mild. I mean that they are simply quiet people. They don't need to be noisy. Answer this question if you don't mind. Of all the doctors that you've ever met, whether they were GPs or specialists, how many tended to be noisy versus quiet? And, you know, I'm sure that, like me, you will recall that most of them are quiet people because they're valuable. And that's really one of the great aims in business, is to learn to be valuable wherever you turn, to your staff, to your customers, and mainly to yourself, of course, as the leader of the business. So these people, some of them were very fortunate to go to university. Some of them left school at a tender age, but they remain students of business all their life, always interested to learn about how to do things better. Which reminds me, by the way, within the context of the salon, one thing that is very important that these people do is they never talk about change. They never talk to customers about change. They never talk to staff about change. They only talk about progress, improvement. That's the language of people who do well. Change threatens to rearrange what people have become comfortable with. So the idea is to talk about progress. And by the way, you can't have progress without change. Progress is the goal. Change is the strategy. So people up here don't go around talking about change because the staff get put off by that. Here we go again, another change is happening and so forth. But if you talk about progress for the customers and also for the staff, don't ever forget to leave the staff out of any equation that you are thinking about. You want to make a move and do something different in the salon. Talk about the advantages to the customers and talk about the advantages to the staff too. They should benefit as well. They're human beings. So these people are an interesting breed. They generate pretty good results. They're not perfect. They do have problems, but they hold themselves accountable for their results. They do not blame external circumstances, etc. Then we come to the base of the pyramid, and an enormous number of people and businesses generate very little, which is sad and interesting at the same time, because as far as I know, I hope you share this view, again, if not for yourself, then for your children, these people were designed to be as successful as these people, meaning that the human blueprint is that we were designed for success. And yet we have people way, way down here who languish, don't get very far, very blameworthy types, always blaming other people. They have their own language that they speak. I'm having to work very hard at the moment. Really? So what do you normally do? They have this unfortunate way of talking. Yes, so there's not a pleasant situation down here. They can change it any time they like, by the way. They can improve the situation any time they like. But unfortunately, many of them do reside down here and prefer to blame external circumstances, their suppliers, the customers, you name it, the government. They're always blaming someone. Then we have the people in the middle, and the people in the middle generate average results. And there is a reason for that. The people in the middle are average people. They have decided to be average. Again, they can improve their position anytime they wish, but they have decided to be average. In fact, they specialize in being average. They're above average at being average. Here we've got the best of the worst and the worst of the best, and they've come together to form the cream of the crop. So, my advice to you is don't be average. As far as I know, we only have one life. After that, it's a bit confusing. But, just make sure that you want to operate up here. Stuart's there to help you. I'm there to help you. And hopefully you're there to help yourself as well. So the question then for me has always been, when I've met these women and these men in business, why do they do well? What's the formula? What's the recipe? And so forth. And it all begins with an attitude. And the attitude is as follows. These people have decided to sell far more than they charge for. Far more than they charge for. So let me give you an example of what I mean. if I were to ask most people, what does a restaurant sell? The answer would be either food or service. And of course, both are incorrect. The food had better be good, but a restaurant doesn't sell food, because if it did, that would make us, the diners, idiots, because it's the most expensive way to buy food. You know, we could have bought it ourselves, we could have grown it ourselves. So we don't go to restaurants because of the food. The food had better be good, as I said, the drink had better be good. And we don't go there because of the service, because if we did, then we'd be going there to meet the staff. Will we meet the staff? Of course. Did we go there to meet the staff? Of course not. So, and again, the service had better be good. So then why do we go to a restaurant? We go to a restaurant for a pleasant experience. Whether the restaurant is conscious of that or not, I hope they are, but that's why we go to restaurants. That's why we pay more. Okay, so what we're buying, what they're selling, is a pleasant experience. Next question, what do we get charged for on the way out? Food and drink. This is called a value gap. The distance between what you sell versus what you charge for. It's a simple formula. So another way of looking at it is always be underpaid all your life at the highest rate. So to understand what I mean by the value gap, think about a book. Okay, where is the price of the book? On the front cover or the back? Obviously, when you think about it, it's on the back cover. Does that mean the price is unimportant? No. Price has always been a very important part of this. But it has its place, and it's on the back cover. What's on the front cover? The attraction to the reader, the attraction to the customer. So it is imperative that a business, consciously or otherwise, has a value gap. They sell more than they charge for. Okay, very important. Some businesses don't do that. For instance, bookstores, as you may know, as you may have read, as you may have heard, are in big trouble throughout the world because what they sell is books and what they charge for is books, so they don't have a value gap. So people now buy books online. It's a piece of cake. Inexplicably, the service is better online than it is in the bookstore. I don't know how that happened, but it did. I was in a bookstore recently. I said to the lady, "Can you tell me where the self-help section is, please?" She said, "If I told you that, it would defeat the purpose." And also taxis, for instance, are struggling just about everywhere, certainly here in the United States. Everywhere you turn, the famous British taxis are under the hammer. It's a difficult time. But, you know, arguably you could say that they have brought it upon themselves through lousy attitudes to service, awful attitudes towards service. I was in a taxi in Melbourne shortly before we left. The guy went through 3 consecutive red lights, so my heart was in my mouth. Then, strangely, he stopped at a green light, which was very strange. I asked him why he'd stopped at the green light, and he said, "Well, you never know when another taxi could be coming through." That made perfect sense. Then we got to the hotel, and I said, "Thank you very much." He said, "That's my pleasure." I said, "I wasn't talking to you, I was talking to God." So there we go. So yeah, I think any business, any industry, any profession that does not sell more than it charges for is in danger of extinction. That's what it basically comes down to. So these people sell more than they charge for, consciously or otherwise. Okay.
And
next.
I guess we saw that in a large part with the airlines when they went budget as well, didn't we? They removed all the additional things, and now they're having to reinstall them because they were just competing at the lowest point rather than at the top point.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, we'll touch on that kind of thing. But yes, I think every business, you know, needs to be really 3 things. And you can ask yourself this. Number 1 is relevant. Well, that's not hard. That's not hard at all. I mean, a salon is relevant. People need salons. So that's number 1. Number 2, you've got to be valuable. Now therein lies the challenge. Are you valuable? Number 3 is, are you a priority? Are your recommendations a priority to people? So be relevant, not tough. Be valuable, tough. Be a priority, very tough. And we have to learn to be those things. Let me give you an example of what I mean. Many years ago, we used to provide salons with a card system that they could use to keep a record of their customers, what services they'd had, when did they come in, what else did they purchase, etc., etc. The Dear Client card, it was called. And we helped salons with the storage of these cards, the filing of them, and all that kind of thing. And one particular salon owner told me that he had noted that several clients had been to the salon once, but had not returned. And he was intrigued to know why. And he asked me, and I said, well, I am not able to look at the ceiling and come up with the answer. I said, so if you like, what we can do is organize to meet these customers, and we'll give them a Starbucks card or whatever matters to them. Only a little thing, they don't care about it, but it's nice to say thank you. So we aimed for about 12 customers. We got 6 or 7, as I recall. We sat them down and explained that the salon wanted to know what was going wrong, why had they come to the salon once and then never returned within a 12-month period. And you can understand why the salon owner wanted to know. She was concerned that what are we doing wrong? So anyway, so we asked the people there, and not a single person had a reason. They had no reason at all. They were all looking at the ceiling and trying to think, but they couldn't come up with any answers. So I then began to prompt them. I said, was it, for instance, that you weren't happy with the style or whatever service you had? And each of them said, no, it was pretty much what I asked for, so nothing to complain about there. Was it the price? No, the price was quite reasonable. Was it the service? No, they were very nice people. Boy, oh boy, what was it? And as we probed, it became clear that when they went to the salon, instead of it being an event, it was a non-event, which no one should be guilty of. No one wants to be guilty of. But let me explain what I mean by non-event. It didn't really count. They would meet a friend. The friend had been to a salon. They looked great. And they would say, oh, you look great. Where did you go? Oh, I went to this or that salon. Oh, please give me the deal. That's what happens. That's what happens. And they had nothing bad to say about the previous salon. It was a non-event. Don't get involved in non-event service. That's a disaster. That's what happens down here. There's no major complaints. It's just basically what they expected. And if all you get is what you expect, why not get it closer? Why not get it cheaper, etc.? So let's have a look now at how these people organize to help their customers in special ways without any posturing. So the first thing we have to understand is there are 2 specific gaps in business, and here they are. First gap, concerns, access. Access to hairdressing services, access to products, etc. There's the gap. And this gap is absolutely full to overflowing. And what I mean by that is there are no shortages of salons. There are salons everywhere that the consumer looks. And, in terms of convenience, they can find a salon just about anywhere, anytime, closer to where they live or a little bit cheaper somewhere else. They have no problem in this area here. This area is highly contested, highly congested, dog eat dog sometimes, a difficult situation. Do not be guilty of selling access alone. There won't be any complaints, by the way. If all you do is provide access, and what I mean by that is somebody walks in and says, I would like to have, and you say, certainly, and it's a regular thing for them, or a new customer comes in and says, I want this or that, and you do it for them and you do it well, there will be no complaint from the customer at all. What is there to complain about? So be careful of being an access-only hairdressing salon. no complaints, no success for either the clients or for you. So in this area here, we are talking about the customer or the client, whatever you want to call them. This is where we hear about what they want. Dictionary definition of the word want in business is demand. Sometimes demand, want is up, sometimes it's down. This is where we have to listen. This is to do with the way the customer has done things in the past and the way they do things now. Okay, so be good in this area. You have to be good. When you receive customers in, you know, you should greet them in a very warm and professional manner, nice manner. Find out what they have in mind and so forth, and help them. But do not allow yourselves to stay in the first gap. Now, let me show you now the second gap. The second gap is not concerned simply with access. It's concerned with success. This gap in every industry I've had the opportunity to study, I actually don't know of any industry, you know, that I've had the opportunity to, that I haven't seen. Banking, insurance, heavy industry, light industry, motor cars, you name it, just about every industry, all similar in many ways because they're populated by people. This gap here has hardly been developed at all. It is a massive area of opportunity, or as we say, potential. And as you may know, as you should know, the word potential is built on the word potent, meaning latent power waiting to be released. So this is a huge area of opportunity. Now, the question is, why doesn't the customer say something about it? Because they don't, by the way. They don't say things like, yeah, I'd like to have my hair trimmed, please, or whatever they ask for. But I'm also interested to spend an extra hour talking to you about the range of hairdressing services you have and indeed your products. Because I'd like to acquaint myself with what you do and think about how you're... They're not going to do that. You know, they're in a bit of a hurry and so on and so on. They want a trim, they want a color, they want anything they want, they get, and that's the end of that. So here we're talking about the person. Okay, the customer is a person. They do not go home at night to customer land. And herein lies one of the biggest problems for businesses. And I'm not playing around with words here. You can call everyone a customer. I'm not talking about that. But the customer is a person. Treat customers as people. Do not treat people as customers. Okay? The word customer means buyer. Okay? Every person is positively selfish. They are. They're positively selfish. And I use the word positively because they're selfish about the way they want to look and the way they want to feel and the services and products that they want to use to help them in that goal of looking and feeling good and so forth. And nothing wrong with any of those things. So deal with the person. The person spends 95% of their time outside of your salon, at home, at work, etc., socially, wanting to enjoy themselves. You are a part of that, whether you know it or not. You're helping them in those areas. In this area, we're talking about the need factor. You know, what does that person need in order to look their best? And they don't know. If they knew what they needed, there'd really be no need for you. They just come in and tell you, I want this and that and everything else. They don't know what they need. And you're the same, by the way. If you go to the doctor, you know, and you're a patient, and you go in, you know, and you talk about what it is you want, please don't tell me that you specifically refer to what your needs are. Are you in the habit of going to a doctor and saying, hello, doctor, my left ventricle is malfunctioning? Also, my liver appears to be interacting negatively with my liver, my kidney, and the lower lobe of my left lung doesn't feel right, and my esophagus just packed up. You don't speak that language. That's the language of symptoms, which is the equivalent of a customer want. Okay? So they know the language you speak. It's the language of symptoms. So this is the way patients speak. Hello, doctor. Every time I do that, it hurts. And the doctor says, don't do that anymore. $30. Thank you. Now, so we have to concentrate on the need factor here. And when you talk to customers outside of trading hours, just very briefly, you'll learn that they have a need to look as good as they can, but they don't go around asking for that because they don't really think the salon's interested in that. So don't get involved in processing clients. Get involved in progressing clients, going from one level to the next. In this area here, our job is to lead.
I think we just need to put an underline under that. Let's get in the market of progressing clients. That's a fantastic line there. Progressing clients.
Yeah, indeed. In other words, whether you can do it on the spot or not, you are helping them to progress, not change, but progress, and to go to the next level and to talk to them about things. I know that you have, you've got your appointment book and your schedules and so forth and so on, but it doesn't. You can sow the seed. You can sow the seed. That's all that matters, and they can come back and see you to get it done and so forth. So long as you plant the seed in that person who is, as I said, positively selfish. So in this area here, we're dealing with the future, starting today. So my question of you is, why don't the customers, why don't the clients come in and talk about what they need? And why don't your competitors, you should be thankful for this, why don't your competitors understand, talk about, and measure the second gap relating to the need for successful clients? Why don't they? Because they don't, by the way. The great majority, I would say 90% of people in the pyramid do not understand the second gap. They're not idiots, by the way. It is simply that they have an indulgent radar screen. So their radar screen is this one here. This is what they measure. What are our sales? What will our sales be next week? Did we make our target? What were her sales? What were his sales? How were our sales this month? How does it compare to last year? I have no argument with any of that, by the way. You've got to have that information. But that is very indulgent. A good business measures the results of its customers. Let me put it in a different way. The true measure of you in business is not what happens when your customers are in the salon. It's what happens when they leave the salon and they live with the results of your work. That's an important responsibility. So we'll go into that as we move into other presentations and what have you. I just wanted to start in this particular presentation as a starting point by letting you know that we have very few people who are successful, and as I said, it's nothing to do with personality. These are very pleasant people. It's got nothing to do with schooling. Some of them left school early, some went to university. They remain students of business. For instance, watching a webinar like this, trying to pick up ideas, thoughts, etc., etc. Whereas down here, unfortunately, they've lost sight of all that kind of thing. They were hoping that business would come their way. And then when you look at it, you are reminded that the essence of business is to create demand and not simply to meet demand. To meet demand is to ask someone, how can I help you? And then you do it, and that's it. So I'm looking forward then to the opportunity to expand on all this and go into detail and look at examples and to talk about how a salon can organize itself. And the kind of ideas that Stuart and I discussed were talking about how to measure this area here, how to introduce your customers to opportunities that they didn't ask about or expect for you to talk about. They love it, by the way. They absolutely love it. And the reason they love it is they don't have to agree with you. Just please remember this. All customers make what is called the second and the final decision. It's their money and it's their life. But you in the salon must make the first decision. So just remember this, and we'll expand on it in the future. Tell the client first, then sell them. Let me explain. Tell, then sell. So for instance, here's how a doctor would do it. It's important that you have an operation on your left knee and let me explain why. They say you've got to have it first, then they go into details. I'm not suggesting you tell people they've got to have certain styles and colors, but I am saying that you should be able to say to them, what I would recommend in your case is that we move in this direction here, and let me explain why it will be helpful to you. Customers love hearing that. They love hearing that. And as I said, they don't have to agree, but it is important that you make that first decision. So I'll end it there. I think I've probably overstayed my welcome in terms of the time allocated, but I wanted to let you know some things. You've got my email address, so anytime you want to, oh, by the way, I write a weekly article. Stuart subscribes to it and so forth. It's not about hairdressing, but it's about business. So if you'd like to be on the list, just let me know. Give me your email address and I'll put you on the list. And if you don't find the articles to be helpful, then it's easy to subscribe. I have a number of books that you can access from Stuart or myself. And I won't go into all of them at the moment. As I said, I've written 12 books, and I'm not boastful by nature, but that is 11 more than God. Keep expecting a thunderbolt to hit me when I say that. But anyway, so this particular book here, I think, would be most helpful to you. It's called Helping the Best Get Better, and it's just one idea per page. So all you do is go to the index, look at the ideas like sales and service and staff development and what have you, look at the titles, go to the page, because it's just one idea a page. And I hope that you find that to be helpful. There are others, such as the focus, thoughts and actions of high achievers in business. Why do these people at the top of the pyramid, how do they separate themselves from the people who are average and below average and so forth, etc. So you can have access to the books. I'm not in the business of selling the books anymore. I still have books here, but you can get them on PDF, which is a piece of cake. We can just email it to you and that's it. And what else did I want to mention to you? Oh yes, and anytime that you want to talk to me, if you want to have a management discussion, or if you want to run a training session for your staff using Skype or just your iPhone, I'd be happy to help you. And the prices are very low. I don't get involved in big conference stuff these days. So if you would like to get involved in that, we can. But in the meantime, Stuart and I have planned a number of follow-on seminars from this, so to dig deeper into how to help customers in the second gap. And by the way, let me say before I leave that if you're no good at the first gap, if you don't know how to welcome people and make them feel wanted and so forth, especially when you're busy and so forth, then you can't enter the second gap. It's impossible. So you've got to be good at both, but most people are hopefully good at this. Some people don't even know how to do this. It's unbelievable, but they don't. But people who are good, then this is the launching pad to get into this area here. In this area here, you have more success for the customer, more success for the salon in terms of revenue, reputation, and referrals. So looking forward to the next session, and let us know what your thoughts are, and hopefully all this will be of interest as we unfold each chapter.
John, that was absolutely fantastic. It just, every time that I look at that presentation, it just gives me new ideas. I've got a whole page of notes here that I've been busily taking down. There's just so much more opportunity, because you can never get to the end of that second gap. There's always more opportunities.
Well, I'm glad that you found it helpful. I would, if you could just send me $10 or something, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Or in American or Australian dollars, which would you prefer? American, I'm guessing. There's also, we have available, we recorded a little video some time ago called The Salon Owner's Lament, which was an article that John wrote for the PS Club many years ago, and we put it together as a little video. So if you'd like to get in touch with me here at the Hair Energy Report TV, we can arrange to send you the Salon Owner's Lament, which is a fantastic look at yourself as a business owner. John, thank you so much for being part of this webinar and going forward with all the ideas that you've covered here, our salon owners can look forward to enormous progress through 2017, 19 something, gosh, going back a while, and it's just amazing. I am so excited, and thank you again for your time and energy.
My pleasure. And I just want to say one thing to the people watching this webinar. If any of this stuff works, any of it, please let me know and I'll try it myself.
Thank you again, John. That's absolutely fantastic.
See ya. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There you are, ladies. Oops. We lost John. He's out there already. Ladies and gentlemen, that was absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for joining me on the first webinar for Hair Energy Report TV. There'll be a small blog next Tuesday afternoon at 5 o'clock on your email server, so if you could look out for that, I'd appreciate that. If you enjoyed this webinar, please share us on Facebook and put a like on our Hair Energy and Frizz Ends page. We'd really appreciate that. I look forward to hosting another webinar this time next month. That's the last Tuesday in March. I'll have a very special guest lined up for you then. But until next Tuesday, my name's Stuart Nicholson. Now go do something for your business.